Hey folks, today I'm going to discuss some of my experiences and things that I've learned about approaching gaming when you're in a weird mental space. I'm sure everyone, to some degree, has run into the situation of you're in like just a weird mood or mental space and you have game later that day and you don't want what's going on in your head to affect how much fun you're going to have around the table. So I've addressed a few of these things in a previous video. You can go check it out up there. But as somebody who has anxiety, I have some days where I'm just in a weird mental state. I've got a lot of mental fog, and I want to game, but I have to get over those hurdles to enjoy gaming. So I've had two experiences with this that definitely came to mind when I was thinking about doing this video. The first one, I was the GM for the game, and I had had a really stressful work week leading up to the Saturday when we were going to game. I'd had too much caffeine that day, and I didn't really feel like I was prepped for game that day. Basically, it was a perfect storm for my anxiety, and I had that, like, thread pulled too tight, about ready to break feeling inside that I kind of get when I know, like, okay, I'm kind of on the edge of having an anxiety attack, and was trying to figure out how to run the game later that day. Ended up not having to game because another player had to cancel. Last minute things came up, and so we decided, let's just postpone the game. That ended up being the best thing I think I could have done. I was already thinking about postponing the game, just because I knew even if the game went fine, my anxiety would have been so high that it would have been telling me, like, this was horrible, this didn't go the way you wanted it to, and it was just our home group. Everybody would understand if I said, hey, I just, I have to take a mental health sick day. And I think acknowledging that and realizing mental health is your health, and sometimes you can power through it, but other times it's just, yeah, you do need to take a day and just take care of yourself. It's sometimes that taking care of yourself is sitting down to game, which kind of leads me into my next experience. This as a player, this was actually in the Too Many Warlocks game that I've talked about quite a lot because that's the game I'm currently a player in. And I had a our first crossover event was a couple of days after the mass shooting here in Hampton Roads, and I'm usually uh, any of the mass shootings usually kind of puts me in a bit of a weird mood. This definitely did. Very grateful that no one that we knew were directly impacted, but could have been. Um, I knew people that worked at the city center, so it was tough. I was dealing with a lot of emotions, but also I think because I was struggling with no one I directly knew was hit or injured. I felt weird grieving, I think, even though I felt that way. And so leading into our crossover event, we had an NPC that had just died the session before. So I was actually able to, even though I was in this weird mental space, it was cathartic in the fact that I was able to grieve and have these frustrations and these emotions for this NPC that I wasn't really processing for what was going on in my own life. And that wasn't even something that was like so much affecting my own personal life, but just it had put me in a weird mental space. And the first of those two back-to-back sessions, I hadn't really mentioned anything. I had let everybody in the group know, hey, I'm safe. Just because I didn't want anybody seeing on the news that there was a shooting in my area and worrying. But beyond that, I hadn't said anything. But before the second session, I said, hey, thank you so much for inviting me to this game. Yesterday's session helped so much. If I seemed like I was super emotional at times or checked out at other times, it's just because of what I'm processing in my own personal life and this weird crossover between my personal life and what's going on in game. But I found it really helpful and was so thankful that I had that game at the time. And I felt like, especially that second session, because I had let everybody else knew, I was a little bit more comfortable. I wasn't as like, okay, I gotta hold this in and worry about, and I was able to let go of some things and have fun. So from these two different experiences, kind of one how I've learned to approach when I'm in a bad mental space for gaming is take care of myself. If I know I've had a stressful week, make sure I don't drink too much caffeine that day. Make sure I'm hydrating. And part of that is also asking for help. One of the things when my mental capacities are like running low or I'm flustered or stressed out is my math skills kind of go out the window. I'll struggle from slight dyslexia, and that just kind of my brain can't handle math sometimes. So one way that I can take a little bit of pressure off myself is to say, hey, can somebody help me with the math? Can somebody double check my math, or I'll roll the dice and slide my character sheet over if it's, and this is even not when I'm having super stressful week, but if the game is super intense, I might have moments where I struggle with the math. Um, it just happens. So asking for that kind of help or letting folks know, like, I had a rough week leading up to game. I'm really looking forward to game, but I might be in a weird mood. I find just kind of letting folks know if you're comfortable doing that takes a little bit of the pressure off, so you don't have that pressure on your mental state, and I'm able to relax a little bit more and trust that the other people sitting around the table kind of have my back, and when they need that, I'm happy to do that in return. It also might mean needing to step away from game, either for that session or maybe you need to sit down and roll up a different character. I've known a couple people that have created a character, and then over the course of the year or two that they're running the campaign, their life has changed enough that what had started out as a kind of cathartic character at the beginning is now they've moved to a point in their life that this kind of feels like they're getting dragged back into a situation or a mental state that they've moved on from personally, and it's not no longer healthy and kind of is no longer fun. If that's the case, talk to your GM, find a way to transition out one character and into another. That might be setting up character death, or it might just be having that one character go off and do their own thing and introducing a new one to the group. However, it is that you work it out, that might be a way to, if you're noticing it's this specific character, or you can also talk to your party and see, hey, is there a way that maybe the character can have some growth to change the character a little bit? And just even if you're doing the most of that work, letting the rest of your party know, hey, I'm wanting to move this character in this direction, they can help with those story moments. I don't think, in some ways, it might be metagaming, but I think that's a healthy way of metagaming. And, I really enjoy gaming. Most of the time, I find gaming cathartic, at times therapeutic, if you like that word or not. Um, it is a release for me. Even when I'm having those stressful weeks, it's oftentimes fun to get to have, it's an escape. I get to step out, and sometimes it's also a way of processing stuff going on in my own life in a taking a step back where it doesn't feel quite as personal. Or, hey, I get to go defeat a monster, and I can't defeat the monster in my own personal life, but I can do it in game, and that feels great. So having tools, having ways to kind of get past my own personal fog, bring out the sun and clear it away is fantastic. Do you ever run into this? How do you cope with gaming when you're in a weird mental space? Do you ask other players for help? Are there certain self-care things that you know to do to kind of make sure that you can enjoy it? Or also, are there times that you just have to say, hey, folks, I need a mental health day. I'm really sorry. But this is this is what I need to do, and it's probably gonna be best for everybody if I just take a day off, and next session I'll be in a much better mood. And this is also talking from you're gaming with kind of a home group of people you know and are comfortable with, situations where it is easy to reschedule or say, hey, I'll miss today's session, and the GM is fine with that. Like convention games, or even things that are much more scheduled and would create issues about dropping out, you may have a different approach. And if you run into that kind of situation, I would love to know how you've approached uh, getting to the table when you are in a bad mental state. I'm also going to put some links to a couple of mental health resources in the description below. Just figure if you're watching this video because you're also in a bad mental state, hey, there are resources you can go to improve your situation. A big thanks to our patrons, especially Tucker. If you want to support our channel, you can head over to our Patreon page and check out the perks of being a patron. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you share it with a friend that would find this video interesting or helpful, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye! I got distracted by a puppy outside. Oh, you're so cute.